So we have some big news from the coronavirus testing vaccine front. There are a ton of coronavirus vaccines in development. We've talked about some of them. Some are sort of closer to a finished vaccine than others. And one of the prominent vaccines is the Oxford COVID-19 vaccine. We talked last week, maybe it was the week before, about the Moderna vaccine. Another one of the more advanced vaccines is the Oxford vaccine. And this month, they are going to be moving into phase 2 and 3 trials, which will encompass a total of about 40,000 people. So 40,000 people, 40,000 volunteers are about to receive the Oxford coronavirus vaccine, which is huge. It's going to provide very important information about the effectiveness of the vaccine at preventing coronavirus. So just to remind you sort of the process, safety trials were done before phase 1. The question is, does the human body tolerate this? Aside from whether it will make you immune, does the body tolerate this safely? Are there side effects, etc.? We got past that with the Oxford vaccine. Then we had a phase 1 trial. Phase 1 trial is a relatively small group. It was done in April. 1,000 people were immunized. Follow-up is happening now. So far, phase 1 has determined that the vaccine is causing the body to generate antibodies. That's very good. So this next part is going to add about 10,000 people in a phase 2 trial, which will expand the ages. Those first 1,000 were all adults, but not older adults. So we're going to now in phase 2 see 10,000 people, which will include some older adults and some kids, receive the vaccine. The point of phase 2 is, does the age of the person affect antibody generation? Do older adults generate the same antibodies as younger adults? Do children generate the same antibodies with this vaccine as younger adults? Then there will, I believe, simultaneously be a phase 3 trial going on, which is going to, again, just focus on a narrower age range of adults, but it will be a test for efficacy with an additional 30,000 individuals at least. And then the question is, again, we're going to go from 1,000 people to 30,000 and see how many of them are generating antibodies after receiving this vaccine. That phase 3 will also include a control group, which is a very important thing. So the phase 2-3 trials combined will include over 40,000 people. We're going to get very valuable data from this. And it does take some time. With the early trials, we've seen that it can take upwards of 40 days for the body to get to its full antibody generation after receiving the vaccination. So once you have the antibodies, which can take 40 days, 43 days in one study, then you need to follow all of those people and see, well, do they get coronavirus? Does this actually work to protect them from coronavirus? And of course, how long does it provide immunity? You could say after 3 months, well, it seems like this vaccine is providing at least 3 months of immunity, but you need 6 months of following those people to be able to say, well, it looks like it provides 6 months of immunity. And that's something that if there's an early enough efficacy signal, so imagine that by October, they say, well, it seems to provide at least 5 months of immunity. You could potentially get an emergency use authorization and say, hey, if it provides 5 months of immunity and it's safe, let's start giving it to healthcare workers. 5 months is better than nothing. Now, could this be sped up at all? I've mentioned challenge trials in the past. Typically, challenge trials are not done with a vaccine like this. A challenge trial would be, rather than doing phase 3, where you just follow people and see if they get infected at a lower rate than those in the general population, you can deliberately expose people to the virus. That's what a challenge trial would be called. That could potentially shorten phase 3 and more quickly demonstrate that it generates antibodies that provide protection. It wouldn't tell you how long they last. Maybe they last a year, but you need a year to go by to know that. There is a debate about whether a challenge trial should be done. Now, outside of this vaccine, if you were interested in participating in a challenge trial around coronavirus, there are lots of different kinds going on, not necessarily for this vaccine. You can find out about that at onedaysooner.org. That's the number one day sooner, one day sooner.org. The other question when we're developing a new vaccine and trying to figure out if it works is manufacturing capacity. So I've talked about this before. If you wait to start manufacturing huge amounts of the vaccine until you have results from a phase 2-3 trial, it's too late in the sense that it will take months. With the flu vaccine that starts to be available, don't hold me to this, but I think the flu vaccine in the US starts to be available like August, September. Typically, they start manufacturing that, I believe it's April, roughly 6 months before, 5 months before. So what is happening here is that Oxford is partnering with AstraZeneca. They are now going to start manufacturing large doses of this vaccine so that if it does work well, there will potentially be, 100 million doses total by the end of the year. From that batch, 30 million would be for the UK. This is the Oxford vaccine. And 80 million would be for the rest of the world. So cautious optimism is the right approach right now. This is one of the many vaccines that we've talked about. Last week, we talked about Moderna. We hope to have at least a couple of these both work and be manufactured in bulk in advance so that by the end of the year, we could at least hopefully dose several million Americans with it. And if you said, I don't know what's going to happen, of course. If you said, David, you've got to bet, what would you bet is going to happen with the vaccine? My bet would be by the end of the year, there will be millions of Americans vaccinated. Now, we're a country of 330 million people. So if 3 million people are vaccinated by December 31, it's both no huge win and it's also not that unlikely. But that's where I would put my money right now. I believe the U.S. will be in the millions of vaccinations by the end of the year, but it's going to take longer to really start to approach what could even remotely be referred to as herd immunity, which for something at the contagion level of coronavirus is estimated at about 70% immunity. If you love feeding your intellectual curiosity, but you're always struggling to find the time, check out one of my all-time favorite apps called Blinkist. Blinkist lets you consume an entire book on your way home from work. They take thousands of popular nonfiction books, condense each one into text or audio that you can get through in just 15 minutes, and you get all of the important core ideas and information from that book. It's perfect if you don't have enough time to do all the reading you want to do, or if you just want to sample a book before you buy the entire thing. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.